My name is Yanis, and I'm working at Viginium. Back in Paris, I am an analyst, but spoiler alert, I decided not to work today. You will be the analyst instead. For the next 15 minutes, your mission, to accept it, will be to detect and analyze an information manipulation campaign targeting the running of a presidential election. Sounds exciting, right? But before we start, let me introduce to you your main tool as an analyst today. And through this QR code, you will be able to detect and step by step this disinformation campaign. All right, so I give you time to scan this QR code, and no worries, it will appear every time I will ask you questions. Ready? Okay. Every investigation starts first by monitoring. So let's have a look on Twitter and see what's going on in top trends. What you can see here is a tool that helps to analyze top trends for the last 24 hours. On the left, you have the number of tweets, and at the bottom, you will have the hours per day. So let's see what's going on so far. What do we have? Cinema. All right. Nothing to really worry about. Champions League, here, nothing to really worry about, even though my colleague in Paris is very happy to see that. NATO Youth Summit, makes sense, of course, should use the hashtag, by the way. Swifties, as always. And last but not least, okay, hashtag election day. This is clearly interesting and maybe suspicious. And I don't say that because Taylor Swift is usually way more popular than politics, but because, as we can see here on the left, the hashtag went viral very quickly. So maybe we should click on this hashtag and see using it. Okay, we might have found something interesting. Here, 90% of the tweets were posted by only 7 accounts. We are clearly in front of what is called astroturfing, that consists in artificially amplifying the of an hashtag by using several means, such as inauthentic accounts or coordinated behavior. Here, it looks like these accounts are really trying to give the impression that one is going to boycott the election. They are talking about fraud, about corruption, manipulation. Some of them are even sharing images, and others are talking about an article from their Spiegel. But we will come back on that later. First, we must identify if we're in front of fake accounts, mostly if we're in front of bots. You all know what bots are, right? Automated computer programs designed to act like human and to post in an automatized way. But I agree with you. Now that we know the definition, the question is, how do we detect bots? And here, I will need your help. So, you have deposited multiple answers, and please let me know, according to you, what should I look in order to detect bots? Okay. Yeah, it's like you're all very good, already excellent analysts. As it is true that the latest point, the fact that the username contains at least 3 numbers, is not that relevant. I mean, it's not because you have that you are necessarily a bot. However, the 3 are really useful and are used on a daily basis by our analysts at Viginium to detect. Okay, so now that we know what kind of to artificially amplify this hashtag, let's focus now on the content and analyze the message. Here, you have a screenshot of several tweets from the account Pixelcraft that is saying that we should boycott the election because of manipulation. As we can see, the narrative is the same. The message is the same, but the form is different. We go from no vote to no voting, from take a stand to make a stand. Here, it looks like this account is using the technique of copy-pasta that consists in duplicating the same content, but with very small differences between each messages. The idea here is to bypass moderation and to make its message look way more authentic. But lucky for us, we are all good analysts and we've been able to detect it. Okay, let's do a small break. What do we have so far? We have the artificial amplification of a call for the boycott of the election by bots that are using the technique of copy pasta. And remember, I talked earlier about an article from Der Spiegel, but also on pictures. So let's focus on pictures, and I do have a surprise for you. Because I can see the analyst, but how good are you when it comes to recognize images generated by AI? Are you artificial intelligence hunters? So it will be a quiz. You will have 30 seconds to identify between 4 images which one is generated by AI. So no worries, you will have time to join the quiz. And here is the first cluster of images that are the profile pictures or bots. Okay? So I give you the time to join the quiz, and you will be able also to see the pictures on your phone and to click on that if you want to zoom a little bit. Okay. All right. Ready? Let's go. You have 30 seconds. Almost everyone had the time to vote. Okay. Ready? Well, okay. And it was a little bit tricky, I must admit, because it was all of them. I agree. Sorry. It was just a little bit tricky one, but no worries. You still have 2 tries to do so. So let's move on to the second clusters of image. And here again, which image has been generated by AI? Oh, sorry, you may have to join once again the quiz. Okay. Okay. Can you see the image on your phone? Perfect. Last few seconds. Last few seconds. Okay. And the answer is last few seconds. Okay. And the answer is right answer was C, unfortunately. But it's okay, no worries. Last try, it will be a picture of a protest that is shared by some accounts with the hashtag boycott election day. Okay. So it's a little bit hard to understand it. Okay. Last one. Okay. And the right answer was C. Well, I mean, it's not that bad, and to be honest, it's quite difficult. That's why we're trying also to develop tools to detect in an automated way some images that are generated by AI. But this is also part of our job as analysts to assess the authenticity of some accounts that can be images, but also videos, or even more audio records. But I said earlier, there was some images, but there were also an article from Der Spiegel. So now this article, then, oh, I forgot that. Congrats to Felix. I don't know where he's. Good, good, very good, very good. So you've been the fastest. All right. So now the article from Der Spiegel. It says the Greens have failed again. Per decision by the Greens, charging electric cars is significantly more expensive than refueling the internal combustion engines. Well, at this stage, nothing enough at all to say that we are in front of a fake news, or even more that we are in front of a disinformation campaign. But if we look from the beginning of this investigation, we've been in front of several inauthentic behaviors, from inauthentic accounts to images generated by AI. So how can we be sure that we're in of the real Der Spiegel? Here, once again, I will need your help. It will be an open text, so there is no pre-selected choices. So feel free, don't be shy. You can do it here in Stockholm, but also online. Share your ideas on what should I look in order to be sure that I'm in front of the real media and not a copy. Yeah. Well, Ausint investigation has no secret for you. Indeed. Right. I think we've figured out the most important one. So let's go back on our screenshot and take some of the elements step by step. As I said earlier, a divisive or wrong narrative, well, it's not enough, first of all, but also when you analyze information manipulation campaign, it's better to focus on the behavior and then on the content. However, a mistakes in language and spelling can be a little bit more relevant. Here we are in front of a German-speaking media, a web page in German, but still there is a French word at the top on the right saying abonnement, which means subscribe. That should not be here, I suppose. But indeed, and I've seen that, what you should really focus on as soon as you express any doubt about the authenticity of a media is the URL. And here we are not in front of spiegel.de, spiegel.ltd. And this is clearly characteristic of a modus operandi typo squatting that consists in impersonating the appearance of a real media by using a domain name very close to the original one in order to give the impression to users that they are in front of the real media and spread easily false narrative. I don't know if you have heard about the RRN Doppelganger campaign, but between June 2022 and May 2023, more than 350 news outlets across America and Africa were targeted by this modus operandi. Well, it looks like we are already coming to the end of this investigation, and I must admit I'm quite impressed by what you have done for the last 15 minutes, as you have been able to be really good analysts. You've been able to detect astroturfing. You've been able to identify boats. You've also been able to identify copy pasta, to recognize some images generated by AI, and to figure out that you were not in front of a real media. What an analyst is doing on a daily basis. These are only some examples of modus operandi, but there is plenty others. But what you should really keep in mind is that for each modus operandi, there is still a way to detect and to counter it. And I'm very glad now you are all able to detect by yourself an information manipulation campaign. So thank you for your participation. And if you want to learn some more about Vigilum's work, here is a link toward our report called Portal Combat. And you can also follow us on our social media accounts. So thank you very much for your participation here in Stockholm, but also online. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yanis. What a fun game, and at the same time so insightful. You have truly shown us that all of us in here can make a difference fighting disinformation. Civil society is important in this fight. This session leads perfectly into the next one, where we will discussing the challenges of foreign information, manipulation and interference, including the world of gaming, and how institutions and the public can best respond. I welcome Laura Karlstein, analyst at the Psychological Defense Agency, who will be moderating. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, and to the organizers for hosting this event and giving me the opportunity to moderate this session that addresses the very important and topical issues of how foreign information, manipulation, and interference, such as disinformation, challenges gaming and poses a threat in the sector. We have also been promised to receive suggestions on how government and the public can best respond to this growing area of influence. My name is Sarah Karlsten. I work as an analyst at the Capability Development Department at the Swedish Psychological Defence Agency. I primarily work with issues regarding strengthening resilience among youth and civil society against disinformation and foreign malign information. This includes spreading and increasing knowledge, conducting trainings, and having strategic dialogue with both local and national NGOs. And with me on stage, I have Mr. Dominik Strikecki. He serves as a counselor at the Swedish Embassy in Tallinn. His main area of responsibility is psychological defense. Prior to his current position, he served as a senior analyst at the counter-influence branch of the operation department at the Swedish Psychological Defence Agency, where he mainly specialized in the operational countering of influence campaigns and analyzing private communication, entertainment, and gaming industry can be used as tools of foreign influence, be affected by it, or be a part of building resilience against it in democratic societies. I also have Ms. Aja Vinci, project leader for the Swedish Gaming Association. Sverek is one of the largest youth organizations in Sweden that work with spreading different part of the gaming culture around the country. Aja has led different projects working with extremism, racism, and toxicity on gaming and gaming adjacent platforms and the effect it has on youth and children. And last but not least, Mr. Robin L.K., serving as a member of the international staff at NATO headquarters, working as part of the Information Environment Assessment Team. He provides the Alliance with situational awareness in the information environment, focusing in particular on hostile information activities. A warm welcome to all of you. I'm very pleased to have you in this panel and that you want to share your expertise with us. Now we're going to hear some opening remarks from the three of you, starting with you, Dominik. You will give some perspectives on threats and vulnerabilities in the world of gaming from the viewpoint of Surgical Defense Agency. I understand that you're concerned about the low awareness about these issues. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Then over to you, Robin. You will continue talking from NATO's some examples of how institutions can counter and respond to information influence activities. And thirdly, over to you, Aja, sharing your deep knowledge and experience of working with young gamers in Sweden, promoting gaming culture and making it accessible and safe for everyone. The floor is yours, Dominik, please.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, this seems to be on. Okay, so for everyone who may not be familiar with the Psychological Defense Agency, I want to start by saying that we look at foreign antagonistic information influence campaigns directly in Sweden, aiming to influence our decisions, opinions, and so on. So we don't look at a domestic debate, and we certainly don't monitor what Swedish say or do to each other online. So looking at the case, I mean, a good comparison is to compare with social media. Everyone knows about disinformation and propaganda being present in social media. And not unlike social media, gaming is also a huge digital infrastructure that can be used for telling stories, sending messages, and communicating in general. I think we have about 3.3 billion gamers in the world. You can compare that to the last figure I heard about Facebook was that they had like 2.9 billion users logging in monthly. So it is a huge space. There are, of course, differences. Gaming can be quite immersive, interactive in another way. It's more for space, and so on. But also it's a space where loyalty is formed quite quickly, and awareness of propaganda is very low. So I wanted just to go through a few vulnerabilities that we have identified on gaming platforms. So first of all, design. I mean, games can be designed in order to recruit, promote different political ideas, foster patriotic fostering, as we saw in the Kremlin leaks that games in Russia are being developed to do. can be revising outcomes of actual wars by skewing historical facts, etc., etc. And we know that popular culture is shaping the way we see the world. So spending a lot of time in games can have the same effect or other types of effects as watching movies or reading books or listening to music. So it's something that we need to be aware of, at least. Also, games have social functions, not unlike social media, in different ways. I mean, there are in-game chats or team building functions. I've seen radicalization, etc., on those types of platforms. Gaming adjacent platforms used for communication as well. We have advertising. I think that's an interesting one. After 2016, when we had the democratic Hindenburg of social media, it was advertising on social media was a bit like the Wild West. You could do dark ads. You could do all sorts of things. You could be based in St. Petersburg and do advertising in an election somewhere in a European country. Self-regulate is something that the social media companies have been doing after that, but this is something that has not yet happened in the gaming space. Political advertisement and other types of advertisement in gaming is a huge thing. We have seen presidential campaigns from Obama, for example, in basketball games or racing game or whatever. So it is a thing. Misrepresentation of game is another. A lot of games are quite realistic, and content can be used to depict conflicts. We've seen this in the Hamas-Israel conflict, in Ukraine, etc. User data, also quite interesting. Gaming companies are quite on the front end of tech development when it comes to telling us and adjusting narratives based on data that is being collected on everything from brain waves to pulse to eye tracking movement to actually adjust in game based on data being collected, and also and so on. We have sports washing, another one, and also I want to just mention countermeasures, and we were talking a little bit about this before we went on stage. Can also, of course, be used as countermeasures against disinformation by designing games that promote critical thinking. And one example is a total example is a Finnish magazine that created a room in the game Counter-Strike on a server where they published information about the war in Ukraine just to circumvent the censorship. So there's a lot more we could talk about, but I think my are probably up. Thank you.
Maybe so. Thank you, Dominic. Yeah. Please, Robin.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. First, I wasn't sure whether to say this because I have a confession to my Vietnam colleague as well. So I participated in the poll and I think I lost every single challenge. I'm sorry. You can trust in us, but this just shows that we always have to develop our tools, our people, always have to continuously train. So I'll connect with you after to continue. So I'm super excited to be here, and I had a lot of different notes prepared, but I talked to a lot of you earlier and I just recognized, okay, you know everything basically, so I think you should all be here on stage, nervously watching the poll at the beginning when you were voting what is the biggest challenge, what you perceive as the biggest security threat, and then disinformation came first. So, well, okay, the pressure is on for us and for my team, because that's exactly the thing we do. We continuously try to untop hostile information and disinformation. So I think first we can all agree that hostile information, that disinformation, they're both key security risks. Maybe just like we represent this, hands up who agrees with that statement, that disinformation, hostile information are the key threats. Right, maybe I should have asked who doesn't agree, and then we could have put people on the spot a bit. But basically this is exactly what NATO care about the information that circulates. We care about the information that reaches you on your smartphones, media environment, laptops. And because information doesn't just stay in the communication realm, it of course has political, security, military effects and consequences. What happens, for instance, if based on disinformation we stop believing in certain institutions, or what happens if, based on disinformation, we believing in the necessity to support Ukraine. And NATO, we also care about the information that circulates because foreign states are actively leveraging this information to achieve their political goals and to influence us, to influence you. So, but what happens if that continuously develops? So we've come a long way. So first, we at NATO, we recognize that this information, that they're both threats to national security. So we've come a long way here. We recognize that they're both a matter of collective defense and, of course, the resilience issue. We talked a bit earlier as well. We heard how important the more resilient we are, the more protected we are. And of course, it cannot be treated in isolation, this issue, right? It is a society issue, and it actually involves a whole of society approach to counter this. So we all have to work closely together. What we do, it cannot, of course, only be solved by NATO. So we all understand, okay, we recognize the threat. So, but now the question is, what does NATO do to respond? Actually involves a whole of society approach to counter this. So we all have to work closely together. What we do, it cannot, of course, only be solved by NATO. So we all understand, okay, we recognize the threat. So, but now the question is, what does NATO do to respond? It cannot, of course, only be solved by NATO. So we all understand, okay, we recognize the threat. So, but now the question is, what does NATO do to respond? Just want to offer a couple of thoughts and then happy to discuss. So firstly, of course, that's what the key thing that my team is doing. We, as a first priority, we have to first understand threats. So we continuously track disinformation, hostile information activities in order to then enable more effective response options here. And we leverage the latest technology to do so. We'll reflect a bit on that later as well. So, but you can say if we just focus on monitoring, if we just tracking disinformation, hostile information activity, something very important is lost. What about our own messages, right? And of course, this is a key priority for us to actually make our own voice heard amidst all the disinformation out there. So this is one key thing on as a way to counter disinformation. So here we engage the right audiences with correct information, that they actually base their views and their opinion on correct information, not on disinformation, right? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, of course, but we just want to make sure that the opinion is based on factual information, not on disinformation, right? So we try to engage new audiences. We work, of course, with journalists. We work with think tanks, universities. We work with content, not on disinformation, right? So we try to engage new audiences. We work, of course, with journalists. We work with think tanks, universities. We work with content creators. We run grants. We try to engage Russian language audiences and so on. And of course, we also try to engage newer communities like the gaming community. So just 3 final points from my side, given the nature of this panel, and since I used to play the fair amount of games myself, I just wanted to... just 3 final points from my side, given the nature of this panel, and since amount of games myself, I just wanted to offer a couple of things, lessons learned, lessons we can learn from the gaming world to apply them, and what we do with these lessons at NATO. Okay, basically it's me. What have I learned from the game, and how does that influence my work at NATO? So growing up, it's 1 minute and then I'm done. Growing up, I used to play this game